What's up, folks? My name's Tim Wheaton with Low Kick MMA. Thanks for joining us. Today we got Jesse on fire. Jesse, how you doing today, man?
I am excellent, good sir. Thanks for having me on.
Oh man, we're pumped that you're here, and we're gonna do a UFC 285 recap. But I want to build on what we were just talking about of like changing viewership in MMA over time. And I feel like when you and I got into MMA to where it is today, the way that we enjoy this sport, the way that people watch this sport, it's night and day. This is a completely different ball game than what we saw even 5-6 years ago, right? Like, let's talk about that a little more.
Yeah. Well, like what we were talking about was just YouTube. I've been watching UFC since 2001. I mean, like I haven't missed a single pay-per-view since Shamrock Tito won.
Oh, that was a good one. That was a classic.
Yeah. But yeah, it's completely different. I mean, like you think back to like, I mean, especially back then, there was an event like once every few months. And for a person, like it was such a big deal. I'd be talking about it for weeks, man. Like I'd be talking about it for weeks, and I would build because that was back back when I was in college, and I would build, I'd be like, look, on Saturday, 2 weeks from Saturday, we're doing a party at this house. We'll get everybody there. We'll have the fights on in the house. We'll do the thing downstairs. Like I would build my social schedule around UFC's 100%.
Well, yeah, it was only every 3 months, and then it became every month, and that was like the coolest thing ever. And now we're doing weekly shows sometimes, and even just it used to be like if you watched UFC and Pride, you were a hardcore. But now even catching every UFC show, that's a hardcore guy right there, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and it just depends on what kind of UFC brand you have on YouTube, because like I don't do the breakdown for every single fight, the kind of obscure fight. This is just not where my brand is. It's like, I like what I loved about the sport and obviously continue to love are like the narratives that live around the big fights, where there's this guy, where this guy's history and this guy's history, what the stakes are and all that. Like, I love that stuff. And, so I try to stick to that. And then also just kind of like breaking news stories where I can add value to like topics that I know a lot about outside of UFC.
Ben, yeah, definitely. And your channel is working. Definitely check out Jesse on Fire. I'll put all the links down below for all of it. But I mean, if you're watching this show, you know exactly who this guy is. But I do agree with you. Narratives in sport are the most important thing. But yeah, let's jump into it. UFC 285, a lot of talking points going in, a ton of talking points coming out. Let me ask you, did Jon Jones answer the questions that we had going in terms of like age, what he's going to look like at heavyweight? Do we have more questions, or did he answer some of those questions?
Well, he certainly answered some of them. I mean, he answered how superior is Jon Jones's grappling to Ciryl Gane's? It's like there is a skill gap that is hard to even measure. So my jiu-jitsu professor, Victor Hugo, Ciryl Gane's team tried to enlist him to train him for this fight. And so, but Victor's a world champion. They weren't going to pay him enough to go to France and do the camp. And I asked him, I'm like, what would you have done? Like, what would you have done with 7-8 weeks to train him for this? And he's like mostly wrestle, like teaching him to wrestle back up, because you're going to need to focus on like a couple base things to give him the best chance of being able to survive. But yeah, that was crazy. I was actually just watching. I just watched the clip of DC's immediate reaction to Jones when Jones choked him.
Tell me all about it.
It got kind of painted as if DC was hating. Like it was like, because it happened, and DC was just like, he didn't jump out of his chair. He kind of just went like, what? And I knew exactly what I was looking at. Where people are like, oh, he's hating. It's like, no, he didn't understand what Ciryl tapped to. That was just exactly where I was at. I was like, I don't understand what just happened. Like that, he didn't look like he was in trouble, and then when you watch the replay, he was really getting his neck crushed into choke. But yeah, I mean, like Jon obviously is, his grappling is super legit. I did a fight companion with Frank Mir, and I asked, and he talked a lot about Jon Jones, and he was just like, dude, you don't even understand. That guy is such a freak grappler that like the way people think about his creative stand-up, he's like that on the ground also. So it's like harder for people to kind of pick up on. But Frank is like, dude, he's like, he was explaining to me this thing that he did. And Frank's all, I've never seen a person do that before. Frank Mir's like seasoned jiu-jitsu guy ever. He's like, I've literally never seen a person do that. And he's like, and then Jon was trying to explain to me how he did it. And he's like, you just basically stand up. And then Frank's like laughing. He's like, dude, no one else could have just done that. Like, You know?
Do you remember the back take he did on Ryan Bader? I think that was the moment where all of us were like, oh, he's not just good. He is like amazing good, right?
Yeah, yeah. Or a standing guillotine on Lyoto, and Lyoto just crumpled into like a garbage bag corpse.
Man, it was some good memories. It's been tough. If you're a Jon Jones hater, I feel like it's been the worst decade of your life. Like this has to suck for Jon Jones haters.
Great. It's been fantastic if you're a Jon Jones hater. It's just a very it's like you just have big spikes, man. It's like
highest
I'm
highs,
lowest Jon Jones, and you're like, all right. So how'd you feel when he popped dirty before UFC 200? They're like, it was the best. His life is over. You're like, what about after So he was trying to get it together, and I just watched Patrick Avia's documentary about Jon Jones yesterday. And
so good. He's done. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I did a podcast with him yesterday. But actually I did it yesterday and the day before because we ran out of time the day before.
Nice.
But yeah, he's like, it's unbelievable. This guy's, are we swearing on here or no?
Yeah, please do. Lots. Yeah.
It's his ability to fuck himself is unbelievable.
Yeah.
We're like, dude, you're on thin ice. You shot a gun out of your car while you were drinking. What the fuck are you doing, dude?
God was testing him. That's how God tests people.
Yeah. Well, if the test is athletics and his ability to beat other men in the octagon, he passes every single time.
No, and it's just every narrative around Jon Jones, you're just like, man, I don't think that's it. Like you were clearly on steroids. You were clearly just like doing stuff outside. However, like I think you can separate like his talent within the octagon versus what has happened outside the octagon. I think if people say like, I don't like, forget about steroids, forget about run-ins with the law, I'm just going to judge him based on merits. I think that's fair, and that might be controversial, but stop me when I'm wrong here.
No, I agree. Well, I've got kind of like my take on the stuff outside the cage is nuanced in that I was just saying this to someone else today that like a person does a thing. I don't just kind of look at it without digging underneath the surface, even if they've done the same types of things over and over and over. It's like, okay, so what's the actual root cause of this? Like if there's some guy, like, I don't remember what that guy's name was in UFC that ended up getting cut, who kept on beating the living shit out of like his girl.
Are you talking about War Machine?
No. Oh. This was a guy very recently, and not Phil Baroni. It was a dude who got cut. He was like I
like that we had to go through the list. Not Phil Baroni, not War Machine. It was the other guy who beat the
red hair. He's like
I don't remember, but yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah. But like, I remember like reading on this. I'm like, dude, this is a scary, like bad dude. Where with Jon Jones, I'm like, this is a guy who has a substance abuse issue. Like that's his issue. He has a substance abuse issue. He's never done any of this stuff sober. And I give people a pretty long leash with that dude, because that's a really tough burden to bear. And it's hard to overcome. And the thing is, like, especially when it's booze, dude, like people who have a challenge with booze, it's the whole reason that booze is so bad for them is because they drink and they're literally a different person. It's like you have this person over here who is generally like does most things right. He's a good dude, has good friends, all of that stuff. And they have this one impulse control problem that they literally like, it's like they can't stop themselves from, they're like, and they'll convince themselves like, it's going to be fine this time. It's going to be fine this time. And then as soon as they start drinking, literally there's like a different person that's there. They're not aware of each other. It's almost like a split personality, because you don't get to actually watch yourself when you're this other thing, except in the aftermath of when you went too far, where you're like, man, I got arrested last night. What the hell was I doing? Or, you know, worse, shot a gun out of the car, hit my girl, whatever. Like, so I've given him a pretty long leash on that, even though, you know, I mean, his behavior has been pretty much indefensible, but you just know it's just this one thing. If he could get it under control, it would all stop, you know?
Man, yeah, it's tough. It's tough to separate him. And like you said, substance abuse is such a prevalent thing, especially in fight sports. And a lot of things that fans may not understand, and kind of what you're getting at, is that he changed at one point. Like the day that he beat Shogun, he was out stopping robberies and stuff like that. Like you remember that, how fun that was. And then later on, Dark Jones came out, and then we had a completely different guy. Evil Jon Jones came out. But I think it changes you as a person. For him being a young man, being 23 at the time, like I imagine myself, if you had a stadium full of people chanting my name at the age of 23, I would be a different person today. That changes you. And then you put me in a situation where it's, I might have made worse decisions. And then they're chanting my name in a fight or flight, very high stressful situation. And then someone puts a crown on your head. Like, this changes you as a person, especially as a young man. Like someone like Glover, he was like 85 years old. He's fine. Don't worry about him. Jon, though, something changes, right? Something changes when you get that crown. Go ahead.
Well, and the other thing too is like, I actually don't think these two things are disconnected, the greatness in the octagon and his recklessness outside the octagon, because it's like, so as an example, there's someone in my life that I know very well who's you know, without getting into too many specifics, I don't want people backing into who this is, but it's someone I respect immensely, who is a mentor and hero almost, like in combat sports that I
You can say my name. You can say my name. That's okay.
Yeah. But he's an absolute inspiration. He's a world champion. And but I know him so well personally. I know he struggles, man. And he struggles, really, really struggles with a lot of things. And like, he actually has learned about himself that his brain, he lives in fight or flight 70% of the time. And that's why he has, you know, if you just watched him on the outside, you're like, this guy's dedication to this craft is you can't even wrap your brain around how a person could be so single-minded. And it's like it's one of those things. Oh, like he'll be on vacation in Mexico. He has to find a place to train. And it's because of that. Like he literally can't, he has to, it's like you know, he doesn't do drugs. So he has to do that, you know? And like and that's an extreme example of someone who's actually been in real combat prior to, you know, to going into martial arts. And so I'm sure some of it has to do with that. But the thing about being able to like perform under that type of pressure and the connection to like potentially being reckless outside of the I mean, there's got to be a connection there in terms of being able to perform under the lights. And I mean, some of these guys are crazy, man. Like you look at Kevin Holland, like when Kevin Holland comes into I'm pretty good at reading people's energy. And like, I've seen Kevin Holland fight live twice, and I don't even know how to describe it. Like this guy, there's something wrong with him. Like you look and you're like, how are you? I can tell when a person is nervous, and the fighters are always nervous. They're always at least a little bit nervous. Even if they look very confident, you can see that part of it is Kevin Holland is like a psychopath. He's not nervous at all. Like he's the happiest a person could possibly be. He's connected to the crowd. He's not scared even in the slightest. And I'm like, how is that even possible? You're about to fight a guy, a trained killer in that cage until one of you is unconscious. How are you not nervous? You know?
Well, that's the thing. Fighting is an extremely stressful situation. It is fight or flight. People are volunteering or getting paid to put their body through fight or flight situations in front of your friends and family. It's an insane sport that we do here, and it exacts a hefty toll, as we've seen some of our heroes like really struggle with this. But let me ask you, we're talking about Jon Jones, we're talking about stuff outside the octagon. You started in 2001. I started just after that. We saw a very fun era when steroids was just like, go for it. You know what I mean? Over time, a lot of people actually do stand on the side of steroids should be just allowed. Performance enhancing drugs should be an okay thing in MMA. That's not my personal opinion, but I'm curious like what yours is, because I also recognize how much funner things were in like 2001, 2002, 2003, you know?
So
we're hitting a skull. We're not hitting a ball further away is the thing, you know?
It's like, well, so I take TRT as a regular person who just is on the outside and decided like, I would rather control where my own. I just got my testosterone tested last week. It's at 900, which is inside of the range of normal, just at the very, very, high end. Yeah. And it's like, so there are multiple ways of looking at it. Do I think that they should just have absolute free reign to take whatever they want? I mean, that's hard for me, I guess. But at the same time, like, if there is medicine out there that people are allowed to take outside of the octagon, administered by doctors, and I'm kind of on the side of, as long as they fall within the range of normal, then letting people supplement testosterone and kind of like their vitamins and stuff. I don't know. I mean, but at the same time, the problem with it is it forces everyone to have to do it, because if everyone else is doing it and you're not, you're going to have a really hard time. Now, like, Bisping never did.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, and like there are lots of guys who just were like, no, I never did it. And they were following, well, I don't even know exactly what the rules were then, but like, that's the part that I struggle with is it does kind of force people into doing it, which I really don't like that side of it.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, Randy Couture was fighting until he was like 47 years old at a high level. And that was awesome.
That was awesome.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. But yeah, well, like we're talking about, I like the examples are like Hendo, who was just a guy who was like low T for some reason. And he just used TRT to like bring his range back into normalcy. It was guys who were like Vitor and who was the other one who was maybe yeah, yeah, I love Overeem. But like it was those guys where you're like, wait a sec, this is not in Chael too. I'm just like, this isn't in the normal level, bro. Like you guys went overboard here, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's tough, man. Because honestly, I really do think that there is a place where you overdo it and it actually stops being a benefit. Like if you go, because if you carry too much muscle around, it really does turn into a net negative in terms of your gas tank. So like there is like a happy medium somewhere, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, like EPO and stuff, never. I could not disagree more with EPO is to me such staunch, like indefensible cheating that I don't even know what, because like if anybody who actually has ever fought knows what's the worst place you could find yourself in a fight. It's when you're gassed, like you are completely gassed and you look and the other guy's not. And you're like, oh my God, man. Cause like being gassed, like it's like the feeling when you're in a movie, I'm sorry, not a movie, a dream. And there's something running at you and you're trying to run away and your feet are like in the mud and you're like, why am I not able to run right now? I'm stuck. It's just like that. You can't make yourself go. And so someone who takes EPO, which is going to make them never get tired, is such a ridiculous advantage that it's just in like, because you can get in that good a shape. Because the thing about testosterone, you can't get to that point without the supplements. Right. EPO, you can get there. You just have to work at it. Like it's just like you just fire that up and you have 5 rounds of just absolute sprint of sprinting. You have Volkanovski's gas tank because you shot it into your ass. That's bullshit.
But I feel like you're selling me on it. Of like, man, EPO will make you have cardio like a prime TJ Dillashaw, like an Alexander Volkanovski. I'm like, man, let's do it. That sounds great to me.
I don't know enough about it to say, but you know, I know that the cyclists they blood doped and they did EPO and they would just go forever. And like, but like again, that's a perfect example of like the you know the whatever you call it oh my God, what's the big race in France?
The Tour de France.
Tour de France.
Yeah.
They pop Lance Armstrong. You look at the picture of the top 20 guys. 100% of them have popped dirty since then. Every single one of them. So you're telling me that like one of these guys who's competing in the Tour de France should have been like, you know what? I'm not going to take EPO. And they're all, why are you even going to race then? You can't win. You can't win without it. So why are you even going to race?
Yeah, I know. You know? I know. But if we're all on it, I don't know. It is. I still stand by the like, man, we're hitting a guy's skull here. It's not hitting a ball farther. It's not riding a bike farther. Like there's very obvious present dangers in the sport that like, if you can regulate it out a little bit, maybe protect someone a bit more, maybe that's not a bad thing. But anyway, we were supposed to talk about UFC 285 and we haven't even got through one fight yet. Like what do we?
That's the story of my life, dude. People are like, hey, let's prep, dude. We'll do what? I'm like, we don't need to prep, dude. We won't run out of things to talk about.
We're fine. But like, man, those, the steroid era, that early Pride, that early K1.
What was so cool about it was that a fighter's prime was older, which meant they got to gain all of these skills and their body was still there. Because normally, you know, like any of these guys that are 36, 37 years old, they have all the skills they've accumulated, but now they're slower. So they have to adjust their it's like, like TRT Vitor, perfect example, dude. The guy's got all of the skills, 20 years of professional fighting at the highest level. And now he's in the best, fastest, strongest shape of his life. It's ridiculous. It's not fair, but it's awesome.
It's not
as long as he's not wheel kicking me in the face. You know what I
mean? Man, remember when he was he did fight Evander Holyfield. And that's just sad. That was ridiculous. Who booked that bullshit? That was bad as hell, man.
Someone who was basing that choice on how Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. went. They're all, both these guys, they look great, man. They're going to be fine. It was like, I mean, Evander Holyfield's 60 and hasn't taken a shot to that, and he's already. And you know what? Let's talk 285 because I'll go off. I met Evander Holyfield, and I know a lot about what his like psychological state is. Whoever cleared him did not do a CTE test. It's impossible because he can't remember things from 20 minutes ago.
Man, this is the thing. This is why we had athletic commissions in the first place. Fighters are too tough for their own good. They're too tough for their own safety. You actually need to step in and tell them not to do it. Evander shouldn't have been anywhere close to there, but like, preaching to the choir here. I don't think anyone's arguing this point, but yeah. So anyway, UFC 285. Do you think Jake Paul's jizz had anything to do with why he lost the fight? I saw the video earlier.
So like I said, the video, it's basically like, it's a legit, I mean, it is a legit thing. I mean, it's funny that he said it on a podcast.
It's testosterone. It like helps you build up testosterone. I think a lot of great boxers talked about this.
Yeah. And like I said in the video, I mean, I practiced this like with the discipline of a monk my entire college career. I would never, ever rub one out past Sunday, ever, because I knew I was going to be going out Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And it was like, it just makes you super confident and smooth with girls. It's so absolutely Titanic certain with me. Okay. Where talking to a girl on a Thursday or Friday when I, abstained, I'm just like, it just made me so confident, so calm, so like not desperate. And it's just, and it like just absolutely night and day. There's no question that worked for me. So in a fight, I don't see why that would be any different,
Yeah. Some boxers said it helps. Like if you don't for 4 days, it'll boost testosterone a little bit. And that's
exactly what my number was. Yeah. But Jake Paul went 2 weeks. And in all honesty, if I'm being totally straight, just based on my own experience.
Yeah.
If he abstained for 2 weeks and then, just on its own, he probably still was pretty solid, dude. Like, he was probably pretty solid. It was probably just like, bro, this is, too much, dude.
If you're a 25-year-old athlete, like, you're probably fine. But man, do you remember when George St. Pierre was proposed that idea? Do you remember this on the count? I think it was before the BJ Penn fight, and he was like, "You crazy?"
No? Dude, honestly, I know a lot of athletes who have always preached the exact opposite of this, like where the exact opposite, right before the fight, but mostly baseball players actually, like where they're like right before the game, and I've always just been like, that is the exact opposite of my experience, like literally the exact opposite. I would never recommend to anyone that is what somebody did.
Man, I would just fall asleep before every sporting event. Like, what advantage are you giving me? Anyway, let's get back to the fight.
Oh yeah.
So Jon Jones here. Do you feel like he was given, out of the 3 big heavyweights, Stipe, Francis Ngannou, Cyril Gane, regardless of situation, was Cyril Gane the easiest one for his style matchup?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
It's still the top 3 heavyweight, but go ahead on this point.
Yeah, he is. But like, so I've been saying this anytime that I talk about how this fight played out. I've said the same thing. I was talking about, Patrick was saying this about me also. He's like, you go out of your way to give credit to like other YouTubers and kind of like talk. And I definitely do that just because they deserve it if they did a good job. And Jesse, Mexican Martial Arts, did a breakdown about the Gane and Jones fight in advance that was so good and so dead on. It was like, here's who Cyril Gane has fought. These are his actual fights, and here's how it played out. And it was like, once you actually watch, it was so crystal clear Jon was going to win that it was like Cyril's either going to chop down Jon's front leg or he's going to lose. It's as simple as that. And he's going to have to do that without getting taken down somehow. And, I mean, he has no ground game. Like you can't, I mean, he had the fight against Francis was January of 22. So he had a year, but when Francis was in that same camp, he had no ground game either. So like if they had the ability to build ground game there, someone would, and they don't have, that's not what they're good at there.
But do you feel like the biggest loser was actually MMA Factory in Paris? Of like, this is such bad advertising for them.
I mean, certainly on the grappling side, they do not have what they need at all. I mean, whatsoever. And in all honesty, like Victor, my professor, who they were trying to recruit, is in a gi. He's the number 1 ranked, in a gi, like jiu-jitsu fighter in the world. But in all honesty, what Gane really needed is someone, so Victor would be an incredible asset for wrestling up, but like the best possible asset is someone who probably it's a wrestler who can teach him not to get taken down so easily, I mean, obviously Victor's exceptional at that also, but I don't know, like, because I just think about Francis, people are, in my opinion, drastically underestimating Francis's ground game based on the original Stipe fight. Okay. And it's like as if they didn't see the second one, because I'm not talking like the Cyril versus Francis fight is a nothing burger. Because like, I know everybody like heard about this afterwards, but I knew going in, and for some reason people are discounting this. Francis had a torn MCL in that fight. Not like a little bit hurt, torn. They went to the doctor that fixed Kobe Bryant's Achilles tendon, and they were like, take a look at it. What do you think? And he was like, he can't fight, dude. They're like, he cannot fight with this injury. And Francis wouldn't listen. He fought anyway. And so as far as I'm concerned, that just wipes the entire thing off. It's like, I mean, he won, yeah, but he has a torn MCL. Like if you're watching video on him and you're like game taping him, it's like, this is not usable tape, dude. He has a serious injury that he shouldn't even be out there. If you watch the Stipe fight where he was healthy, the second one, Stipe tried to take him down exactly like he did in the first fight, and he had no success at all. He shook him off like he wasn't even there in the first round. That's when it was like, oh man, Stipe's in trouble, dude. So, I mean, I don't know. I like Francis versus Jon Jones. I'm sure Jon Jones is going to be a huge favorite, assuming that it happens. But yeah, I mean, I just think it's a huge question mark because we didn't see enough of Jon's stand-up at heavyweight to really be able to gauge it. And I don't think that he's going to be able to get Francis on the ground like he was, Cyril.
Well, yeah, this is the thing. Like we've learned so little about this guy. Like all the things, if I claimed of like, he's out of shape, he's out of shape, he's older than he ever has been and all this other stuff, those might still be true. You know what I mean? Like it was a good fight. He lasted the 3 minutes that he needed to slap on a submission, but we still have all those questions about like, what is he going to look like in the long run? What is he going to look like? But yeah, this sport sometimes, this is just some insane stuff. He's going to be fighting probably Stipe next.
Yeah.
Man, Stipe's old too. Stipe's not the prime guy he used to be, but I know I'm going to be excited for this one, right?
Of course. Yeah, we'll be excited, but like, how does Stipe win that fight? How? Like I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, and I asked a couple of guys, like people seasoned UFC fighters or retired guys. I'm like, you tell me honestly, how does he win? And all of them are like, he has to get lucky, basically. Like he basically has to get lucky and get close to Jon and hurt him. Like, because Jon's so good at controlling distance. And again, we haven't seen Jon stand up, but if you look at how Stipe fought against DC was touching up Stipe in the first fight for a long time, you know, and Jon's reach is like, it's like a whole other person in addition to DC. DC like did a great job of using what he has effectively, but like that step in hook to the body that Stipe, ended up finishing DC with in their first fight or second fight. I'm sorry. It's not going to work on Jon. He's never going to get that close to Jon. Never. So I think, he might have to try to wrestle Jon. I don't know. I cannot see how he wins that fight. That said, if he did somehow win that fight, man, now that, talk about derailing the UFC's, UFC's deal here. Because like the reason they're turning Jon around so fast is because they're trying to crush Francis's leverage, that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. It's we'll see if it pays off, because look, how many days we're removed? 4 days from the fight. We still, let's wait for some drug tests to come back. We have ample time for things to go sideways here. But yeah, it's not the same Stipe that we saw him like bludgeon Junior Dos Santos and Alistair Overeem and all these other guys. Like he's not in amazing shape, but man, that heavyweight division, cast it off. Like, let's just go back to the WEC weight classes. Like this division is not good.
They've got, they have a couple guys that are monsters that are down there, but they just don't have big names yet. Like Aspinall, when he comes back, is a killer. And all that happened is he just got injured. He's looked incredible in every single fight, except he just got injured. And coming back from that injury stuff. And Sergey Pavlovich, my goodness, dude. Yeah. That guy is scary. The UFC, I think, is going to be, I love Pavlovich over Gane.
Okay.
Jon, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But Pavlovich is an absolute animal. That's a whole different ball game, And eventually there's a changing of the guard, dude. Like the guys are good for a while. It's like, look at lightweight. You have the same kind of top guys for a long time. You know, you got Justin Gaethje and Chandler and like Khabib and then Islam, Charles Oliveira, et cetera. Like that era has been kind of in there for a long time. And at a certain point, like guy like Gaethje, it's like, how much longer does he have? I don't know. Like, is he? But at a certain point, there's going to be this new breed that kind of comes up. And at heavyweight, I think that you're looking at Tom Aspinall, Pavlovich. I think those are the two guys.
Tom Aspinall, if he's going to look like what he did before the knee injury, if he can keep that pace, that strength, that speed up, that's a champion right there. That guy, absolutely phenomenal, just incredible talent. But yeah, changing of the guard is always a good thing. And I do want to talk about Rafael Fiziev coming up fighting Justin Gaethje, but man, what do you think? Who do you got in that one? Other than just violence, but what do you got in that one?
I mean, I know people are going to say Fiziev because they saw Gaethje lose, to Oliveira and Khabib.
Sure.
But if Gaethje is still in good shape, I think he probably gets it done. How good is Fiziev's ground game? Like, how good is his wrestling? Is it like exceptional?
As far as I know, like he trains at Tiger Muay Thai. I don't know if it's different.
If we're talking a pure stand-up fight, I mean, Jesus, I don't know.
It's a banger. It's a banger.
It's a banger for sure. And there's just no way to know with Gaethje, dude, because like Gaethje got hurt in the Oliveira fight. I was at that fight, and but yeah, I don't know, man. He also lit Oliveira up first.
Yeah. He was hitting Khabib as well. Like this guy is game always. It's always but that's his strength is kind of the weakness as well of like he's willing to get in firefights. That's what keeps getting him in trouble every time, right?
God, that Chandler and Gaethje fight was incredible. I wish I would have been at that fight.
Ooh, it's good stuff.
This is my gift, man. Is seamless conversation that never ever ends. I did with Patrick Avi's documentarian. I did 3 hours with him in 2 days. It's like no problem.
Not even surprised.
It's easy. Like it's just like I'm an absolutely unorganized moron in basically every single possible way.
I know.
But put me on a camera and have me start talking, and I could just do it forever.
I was talking to one fighter, and he was like, "I was struggling in school," and I was like, "Yeah, dude, I know. That's why we're doing this. We don't have a real job like other people."
Yeah. Dude, I mean, and it's funny. Speaking of Stipe, there has never in the history of combat sports been a person who hates being on camera more than Stipe. And is also less talented at it. Like he is absolutely horrendous at interviews. And I say that, not even really meaning to like talk shit at all, because I don't think that he would want people to say he's good at interviews. Like I think he hates it that much that he's just like, he hates that he has to do it. He's awful at it. And like, he's one of those guys where like you would think if you got him talking that he would have some interesting stuff to say. He went on Rogan and you couldn't even get him past like that he likes campfires. You know what I mean? Like there's like just nothing there. There's like nothing there, which is scary though for him as a fighter, because like they asked him about it yesterday. Like guys like that, I understand them here. Like a guy who has demonstrated how good of a fighter they are and how good they are under pressure and how much they are fucking absolutely unmatched, horrendous at interviews. It's like, a guy like that, like all that insecurity that he carries, having to be on camera, all of that stuff, when he sees other guys that are good at it and they talk, he's in his mind, he's like, I'm gonna break this guy's fucking teeth out of his head. And it makes them so confident. Like it's like that, the more uncomfortable they feel on the microphone, the more confident they are going into the fight, because they're like, keep talking, and they're like, yeah, man, I don't know. And all they're thinking in their head is they're like, we get to really figure this out when like you can't talk your way out of the fucking octagon, dude. You're going to have to fight your way out. And this is where I'm going to bury you. And like, he's like the fact that he sucks makes him that much scarier as a fighter, because he sucks on the mic.
Man, confidence is quiet. Confidence is quiet, isn't it?
Different kind of confidence. Yeah.
That's right. But yeah, here's the thing. If I listed out, if you like 10 years ago, if I was like, man, check this out, this guy, and I read you out Stipe's rap sheet, he's knocking out former champions. He's breaking the record via knockout. He's knocking out Olympians. Also, he's a fireman. You'd be like, oh, this is the biggest star in the history of the sport. No, he's barely any. No, he's barely notable in terms of how the fans see him. Like that's how bad his interviews are.
Yes, they're there. I mean, it's like public speaking for people is one of the most common fears that people have, you know? And I mean, I know exactly what I'm looking at. He has a paralyzing fear of public speaking.
Yeah.
And it's not that uncommon. It just happens to be extremely uncommon among elite athletes for some reason. Like it's not common to be that paralyzed by public speaking if you're an elite world-class athlete. But, you know, because I know people who know him personally and they're like, dude, he's awesome. Dude. Like he's super cool. I could tell you unequivocally that if we knew each other in person, he would fucking hate me, but not like there's a very specific personality type that like I get along with fucking everyone except for this one very specific personality type, and he has it. Like I would be like, man, I like you, and I'd just look at him and be like, fuck, he hates me, man. Nothing I can do, dude. I could save this guy's daughter from drowning, and he would want to slap me in the face.
Well, like being a professional athlete in public speaking, it's tough. We can't all be like Henry Cejudo, who just like took a class one day and apparently is okay at it. But like, it's like if you and I ran a half marathon and then you found a stadium full of people and asked me to give a speech. Of course I'm going to be bad at it. It's actually weirder the people who are good at doing that kind of thing. Those are the weirdos, right?
No, I think you'd be good at it, dude. You talk like there, you know, talking publicly. This is the thing. Speaking, like talking into the camera and being confident speaking publicly is exactly the same thing. Like you could, I'm sitting like, I mean, this has been, you know, tried and demonstrated. Where like I went and worked for a company. It was like a sports app company, and they had this huge event, dude. There were like, I don't know, 6,000 people there. And I had started the job the week before, and they were like, hey, we're going to have I was a chief product officer. And they're like, we're going to have all of the C-level guys come out. We'd actually like to have, you know, the chief designer, CTO, and the chief product officer all come out and do a speech. And I was like, all right. And I went out there and just fucking crushed, like with no, you know, with like just no prep, no nothing. And I knew I was going to before, and I did, just because it's like the one thing that, like I said, whenever I talk about this, people are like, you're really full of yourself. I'm like, you're not listening, dude. I'm telling you, this is the only thing I'm good at, dude. Like, I'm good at this. Like, ask me how I do it organization, or ask me how I do with this, all these things that you take for granted. I am basically a low functioning fucking retard that's just like wheeled around in a wheelchair. Like I'm terrible at everything. It's just this one thing, like Kevin Holland before he fights. Like literally, that's exactly what it is. The Kevin Hall where you're like, what's wrong with him? How is he so? That's just me talking in front of crowds or into a camera. I can't explain it better than that. But like, but yeah, if you put me in Stipe's position where I'm going to go in and fight Jon Jones, I'd be shitting my fucking pants, dude.
Exactly right. Even if you like, I also think it's also controlled environments, like this sort of thing of like you and I just bouncing back and forth. We know it's okay. Like I know I can throw any topic at you and it's going to be okay. I think if someone was insulting my family to my face publicly, that also changes the tone of the conversation. And maybe that's why Stipe just shuts up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, not for me. Like I would just know, it's like whoever, you just got to know, like whoever gets mad loses. Like, so you go in, you're like, there's nothing they can say that's going to get you mad. You just, and the harder they go, the more you stay confident and funny through that, the better off you are, you know, where it's like, oh, all right, you know, it's just like, that's just the way you do it. That goes, and I've stayed out of any kind of like YouTube conflicts on purpose, just because I don't want to get into it with people. It's like, it's too much energy. But like, as an example, let's say someone gave me an absolute, like a no choice situation where it was like, I have to respond to this. Okay. Like I wouldn't go on there and get mad. I would make a fake interview with them and I would just utterly humiliate them with like a fake script that I wrote where I'm chopping them answering things that I did. Like I would just make it hilarious. Because like, do you know what I'm talking about? You know, like the fake interviews where you ask people a question, like, and then, like I just did one with Jon Jones before the fight last week. And it's like I would just do that to him. And because you can't lose. It's like, if the crowd laughed, you won. It doesn't matter what they said, dude. You know what I mean?
The core of public opinion.
That's what Conor used to be like before he started being super mean.
Well, he started being super dumb. You know what I mean? Like he he was witty and memorable, and it was great, and it was actually quite clever and funny. Then it just like, this is stupid. Do you remember I don't think there was anything more fun than his third press conference with Floyd, the one in Toronto.
Oh, he's great.
Classic stuff. But then the press conference the next day, that one sucked. You know what I mean? This guy was good.
In New York. It was in New York. Yeah.
That was
I mean, like, I think his greatest line ever, literally his greatest line ever was, "Who the fuck is that guy?"
Come on. Oh,
that is a fucking headshot, dude. Like, there's no because that embodies exactly what I'm talking about. That's how you win. Is like, the person is not capable of getting under your skin because they're so small to you that they can't get under you. That's how you win, no matter what. They're like, they talk about your mom, they talk about whatever, and they're not a big enough deal to get under your skin. I have people that actually, you know what? There is another thing that I'm pretty good at, which is kind of in the same realm, which is advising people on how to interact with like a girl who's kind of dating a guy and she's like having trouble. Like, he's not calling me, I can't tell whatever, or a guy in the same situation. I'm pretty good at like helping them navigate those situations. And I'm like, look, what you need to understand is like, another person can always feel how important they are to you. And if you're in that weird little, like that weird kind of place where you're not really together and, you kind of know you have to pay attention to each other, but whatever, if they can feel that you're huge to them, or they're huge to you, you're losing no matter what. What you have to do is you have to be able to convince them that they're not a big deal to you. And even though if they are, you have to mold your behavior to make them feel like they do not have any control over you. And I'll literally coach them through exactly how to do that. And they will always, at least initially, push back. Like, they're like, dude, if I don't answer for like 24 straight out, like, they, in their mind, they like they think that somehow that's going to give them less control. I'm like, just trust the process. It works every time, no matter what the situation is. If they just listen and do exactly what I say. Now, I wouldn't be good at doing it myself if I was actually in the situation, because it's so hard when you're like, you need a third party to tell you what to do, because when you're emotionally invested, it's really challenging. Like, and I'm saying like myself, I'm not even sure if I'd be able to kind of strategically think through it if I needed to on my own, but it's the same exact concept. Exactly the same.
Yeah, man. I wasn't expecting that one. But yeah, people will actually tell you, like, the thing is, being avoidant when texting or avoidant when dating, people are telling you how much they value you. And like, because people like that person or have a crush on that person, people are not reading the signs. But like, if you take one step back and you're the third party, you can see really clearly as to like, they're just not that into you. It's very
Are you married?
obvious. Yeah. No, engaged.
Same. Yeah. So you don't have to worry about it anymore.
No, I didn't even date during the texting era. Like, it was great. Anyway, been together a while. Anyway, so let's jump in. So you survived BJ Penn fans. You survived Vitor Belfort fans. You survived Khabib and Conor fans. Are Valentina Shevchenko fans the weirdest fans in the history of MMA?
I mean, without betraying confidences, the biggest Valentina fan is a certain UFC coach that I'm friends with. But like, he loves her. But like, I actually I haven't had any problems with any fan bases, because I always try to be really, like, I really genuinely try not to talk shit about fighters. I mean, I realize I just fucking ripped Stipe Miocic's mic skills, but like, when it comes to, like, there are a lot of people who talk about the fights and the fighters who are really hard on the fighters. And I don't do that shit, just because I have so much respect for them. And it would just like, I always just try to be completely transparent and say exactly what I think. And like, it would be weird. Like, I have too much respect for them to shit on them. And so I haven't had a lot of backlash from fan bases, but I've heard that Dagestani fans are very, very hardcore if you fuck with their people.
Man, there's certain fan bases you don't mess with. Like, even like I cover mainly kickboxing actually, and like Badr Hari is one of those people where I had an editor being like, "Let's do a tough piece on Badr Hari," and I was like, "No, dude, his fan bases show up at your door. Like, I'm not doing that, man. That's dangerous." You know what I mean? There's certain fan bases, just leave it alone. But I think like staying positive, punching up, I think is like the right attitude. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just try not to punch anybody. I try to, like, if I'm gonna be critical of people, I try to, like, like I try to make it a shit sandwich, where you're like, say something nice, shit on them, then say something nice. where it looks like if they see it. Basically, I have always, this is my honest approach to every single video is I assume the person I'm talking about is going to see it every time. Like, and that way, in the event that they do see it, I don't have to worry about it. Like that's kind of how I think about it. Just because I don't want to burn any bridges and create any problems with people unless there's someone that I really don't give a fuck about. You know what I mean?
Well, let me ask you: have you ever recorded one and then just throw it in the garbage, like based on that philosophy?
Yeah. Yes.
Seriously.
Many
like
times.
you'll just be like,
oh, a video, and then I watched it back and I was like, I was too hard on this guy and not put it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I have. Not often, but like, like after some kind of thing happened and I might have recorded it when I was emotional, like if it was something like really struck a nerve and I went pretty hard on him. And then I upload it and then I'm like, let me just watch this really quick and watch it through their eyes and see if I'm looking at like a lifetime ban in their world. If I watch, and I've watched them and just been like, I don't know. That's probably a little bit much, like, I mean, I would say probably in total, maybe like 4 or 5 times over 3 years. I've done that.
That's not that many. That's not that many at all, but that's good. Cause it also shows like self-reflection and like knowing like I maybe across the line there, this isn't worth it.
Yeah. I mean, I've looked at at this process of building the brand as, building an audience and then building a network at the same time, where like I mean, there are a lot of people I can call now. They're like, my buddies or whatever, like throughout the industry. And I know for 100% fact that a few of them came as a direct result of me very strategically never saying anything negative about them or speaking very positively about them. Cause I knew eventually they would see it. Like, like with, like Ali Abdelaziz is a perfect example. It's like, people go hard on him all the time. And I've actually, I was being all my takes were genuine because I'd watch him. I'm like, if he was your manager, this is exactly what you would want him to be doing. You know what I mean? Like he goes kind of hard at these guys, but he's going hard at people who are adversaries of his people. Where like, so anyway, bottom line is I was always like, I was always really fair to him, and now he's my guy.
Yeah. And plus, like, you and I are using our real names here. Like, if we were under a pseudonym, forget it. I'm going in on these guys, but no.
There are certain people I don't even know. I have no idea what their real names are.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have any idea how to find them if I wanted to.
Yeah. Like, I swear, someone like Brett Okamoto must have some Twitter alt where he's just going in on all the insider knowledge he knows, and just like, but none of us actually know that that's him, kind of thing. Because like, you must have to vent at a certain point when you're like under the thumb of something. You must have to have an outlet.
I don't know, and I would bet he's a lockbox, just because like part of being on the inside of that is being reliable to like, because the thing I can tell, without getting into specifics, is like there's a lot of stuff that happens, and you probably know too. Like a lot of stuff happens. Have you ever had to bury a story?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. So like, there's a lot of stuff that happens where you're like, well, this would get me 5 million views, but instead I would prefer to make a long-term friend than this many views, burn this person's life to the ground, and then make an enemy that's extraordinarily dangerous.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you. But we've been talking for nearly an hour now. Holy crap. Nearly an hour now. And we've been talking about interesting, engaging topics. So I'm confident that Valentina Shevchenko fans have already checked out. I'm not worried about them hearing this at all.
They wouldn't make it this far.
You know what? We got 2 minutes left.
What's your experience with that been?
With Shevchenko? I'm actually the same attitude as you. I'm just like, I have tremendous respect for Valentina Shevchenko and her game. I just recognize that her fan base, super weird on like online spaces. Reading Instagram comments from these people, Twitter comments, makes me not want to engage in it at all. Like,
are they like creep dudes, or are they just
that's kind of the stuff I'm getting at. Of like, you guys are just a little weird here. But yeah, okay, we got like 2 minutes left. Tell me real quick, does Valentina deserve a rematch, or should it be someone else in this?
100%.
100%. Okay. Flyweight's getting interesting. Women's flyweight finally is getting interesting, and it's cool at the top. But you're going to say go for the rematch. Does she get it done in the rematch?
I don't know, dude. Grasso looked really, really good, dude. And it's interesting. So speaking of like people that I know, like I spoke to Rose Namajunas right after in the morning after the fight, and I asked her, I was like, I'm like, what did you think about that? And she's like, this is the honest truth. Because they trained with Valentina. They're like really, her and Pat, they love Valentina.
Yeah.
And she was like, the truth is that she's been at the top for so long that every single fighter has studied her film 1,000 times. Like everybody has. And she's like, and so at a certain point, she's going to become predictable. Even though she's exceptional at what she does, she's going to become predictable, and they're going to be able to build game plans around it. And honestly, when I watched the fight, the first thing I asked Rose was, I was like, do you think that her catching her back like that was lucky, or do you think she trained that? And she was like, she's like, oh, she trained that for sure. Because to me, it looked like she went for a cross, and then just all of a sudden Valentina's back was there. And I was wrong, because I saw the clip afterwards of her training that exact move. Did you see that?
Yeah. Phenomenal.
Crazy, right?
Absolutely phenomenal. No, this is like, I think the only time I've seen that someone does a spinning attack, like that was in Dream in like 2008. And I don't even remember who it was, but like that so rarely happens that it couldn't have just been luck. And the speed at which that she crawled up, but even leading up to that point, even leading up to the finish, her scrambles, quite often she had good defense. Her cross, which was countering the hook. Oh my God.
Her boxing's amazing. And yet her defensive jiu-jitsu was incredible. Like she just made it really hard to hurt her. She was landing a lot of strikes to the bottom, and then she wrestled up. Like Grasso is legit, dude. And I really liked her energy on her way in. She had that, I would say the person whose energy I was most confident about that I've ever seen going in, or at least, one of the top guys going into a fight, was Brandon Moreno going into the second Figueiredo fight. Like if you watch that entrance, it's like, dude, this guy could be fighting Francis tonight and he's going to win. Like I've never seen someone so confident. He just walked in, you could just see it. You're like, he's going to win, dude. And then that performance was flawless, dude. Yeah. She looked like that on the entrance,
100%. Got goosebumps just talking about it. All right. 2 minutes left. Talk us on out of here. Jesse, what do you got going on in your life? Shout out who you need to shout out. All that good stuff, sir.
Dude, I'm just doing what I'm doing. I literally just started a new channel called Jesse on Fire After Hours, because I realized like I have to be so selective with what I post on my main page. I'm like, dude, I have so many other things that I want to talk about, but I don't want to have to worry about the algorithm. Like I want to just be able to dump my thoughts. So Jesse on Fire After Hours, new channel, and then my main channel, Jesse on Fire. And if this, interview didn't make you want to pull your hair out with my tangents and nonsense, then this is what I sound like all the time. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I was supposed to label the UFC 285 recap. I feel like that's just lying to people about what this
is. You can say UFC 285 recap and more.
and et cetera. All right, Jesse, hey,
et cetera.
Thanks so much for your time, sir. It was a hoot and a half. I really appreciate it. Best of luck this week, eh?
Thank you very much, Tim.
Make sure to subscribe to the Low Kick MMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.